Hello everyone, Lore Master of Sotek here, back with another lore accurate build replay for you guys, and this time we're taking Morathi, the Hag Sorceress of Grond. Hope you guys are looking forward to this fight. We're up against some dwarves here on this battlefield. So as I stated, we have Morathi leading the army on her Dark Pegasus Solifet. We've got all of her items and abilities, but for spells we're running Melkoth's Soul Stealer, and Soul Blight. Meanwhile, for my army, to get a nice representation of the army of Grond, we've got a pretty nice mix of mostly basic troops. We've got 2 units of Bleak Swords, supported by 2 units of Black Art Corsairs, and then we're bringing out the Femme Fatales. We've got 2 units of Sisters of Slaughter brought from the arenas. Then we're backed up by 2 units of Dark Shards, and finally, one of Morathi's allies from a time long ago. So back in the heydays of Naggarond, basically the sorceresses of Grond grew extremely powerful, and in their arrogance, mostly due to someone, they made themselves so beautiful and so immortal using all sorts of dark pacts and sorceress powers that they basically angered the god Authority, the goddess of pleasure, to the point that she came down and cursed all of the sorceresses of Grond at that time, of course, except for Morathi, who managed to slip away, into these horrible, monstrous creatures known as the Bloodrack Medusae. So, of course, we decided to invite one of Morathi's old friends onto the battlefield on her Bloodrack Shrine. Finally, we've got the Crows of Cain, some nice harpies representing the god Cain, who of course Morathi has a pretty interesting relationship with. For instance, many don't know this, but Morathi was actually the one who discovered how to construct the Cauldrons of Blood. And then last but certainly not least, we've got some basically male sorcerers on the battlefield. We've got these Slaanesh's Harvesters, who were elves that had tried to rival Malekith at one point, but of course were cursed for their impudence. And now they basically run around trying to harvest souls for Slaanesh for pretty much all of eternity to take in place of their own, because they have to throw souls to the god of pleasure, or else he'll take them instead. So without further ado, we're up against some annoying little dwarves who have decided to invade my lands, and we're going to take them out. As you can see, he's got 2 gyrocopters here, both with brimstone guns, which are going to be pretty nasty. Then we've got, looks like 2 units of rangers, I believe. Yep. Nope. 4 units of rangers. No, 3 units of rangers, 1 of Bugman's rangers, 2 thunderers, and then an army of longbeards, dwarf warriors, many of whom have great weapons. Couple of longbeards with great weapons, and then 2 cannons led by a pretty much naked dwarf lord. So we'll see how that pans out for him. So already the cannons have done a fair amount of damage to my Bloodrack Medusa, who is firing off shots as she's moving, very helpfully. And I'm doing my best here to scare off these gyrocopters, make sure they're not getting free damage into Morathi. Call down a Doom Bolt with my wand item, which does a little bit of damage. Dwarves, of course, do have solid magic resistance, but oh man, those gyrocopters are going to get shredded by some dark shards. And unfortunately for this cannon, it moved up a little too much trying to get inside of my Bloodrack Medusa thanks to this advantageous terrain. So it's going to get a little surrounded real quick. Morathi now is being pretty heavily harassed by gyrocopters, so I do decide to go ahead and pop a Soul Stealer just to guarantee heal me, and it does really good damage to single targets, so I know it's going to get me some good effectiveness. Then here we have our front lines smashing, and we've got the Bloodrack Medusa coming in, which on her shrine, she is of course going to be providing melee attack and leadership to all of my guys, but melee defense, lowering melee defense and leadership of all nearby enemies. So she's going to come in here and do tons of damage. And then I've got Morathi flying around, and I'm trying to essentially keep Morathi flying over these ranged units, because they're all so tightly packed in together that they're not going to be effective for shooting at me as long as I just keep moving over them, especially if they're trying to aim at me. You basically just fly over them and force them to turn around. And of course, charging that Bloodwrack Shrine in wherever I can. So here the front line is taking quite a beating. Black Ark Corsairs have, of course, anti-infantry, so they do specialize in cutting through infantry like butter. Even with their high armor, they will get through it sooner or later. And then the Sisters of Slaughter are very, very good at armor piercing, and they also do poison damage, so they're debuffing all these dwarves. Meanwhile, Morathi here does fly into the battle herself, wielding the Dark Sword and Heartrender, which are her weapons to... because she heavily nerfs all enemies that she's nearby due to her extreme beauty and her magic weapons. Call down another wand there. And we're basically just going to do our best to tear these dwarves apart. Here we can see that my faction ability has gone off. So all my guys are buffed due to all the casualties that have been taken. And there I'm going to call down a Soul Stealer. So I'm going to be doing lots and lots of damage, and Morathi is going to be healing some more as she takes back up into the air. So unfortunately at this point, my Bloodwrack Shrine is cut down, but I do have the high ground with my Dark Shards, who are just doing ludicrous amounts of damage across the field. And although Morathi is getting a little focus, I'm not too worried about it. She's got pretty decent healing going. And at this point, my cavalry is charged in, the Silentius Harvesters. And they are blasting their ways through the dwarves, using Word of Pain over there to nerf those Longbeard or Dwarf Warriors, so their melee attack is basically nil. And they drop a Soul Stealer of their own, while I add on a Soul Blight to reduce the armor and damage of all these dwarves. And at this point, the dwarves are pretty much doomed and are easily damned into a life of slavery in the nearest Dark Elf city. I'm sure they'll make excellent builders, and if not, they'll make good fodder for sacrifices for Morathi's rituals. So this will be another powerful win for the Hag Sorceress and the true ruler of Naggaroth, because we all know that Malekith's basically just a puppet. He's who Morathi wants to be in charge, wants on the front lines. After all, through him she rules best, right? So another great victory for another great character. So at this point, I am enjoying the series. I would love to see who you guys want to see next. Just let me know down in the comments down below. Occasionally I'll check Twitter every once in a while and pick them from there, but I'll try and keep a good mix. That way people who, for instance, don't want to or can't use Twitter are not missing out. But yeah, hope you guys are enjoying these. I'm having a lot of fun with them. They're just a nice, easy way to get up content. For Morathi's army, I kind of thought about trying to bring on a Cauldron of Blood, since, you know, she's the one that invented it, but figured we'd probably save that for Hellebrand. And of course, if you take Morathi fully kitted out like I did, she is very expensive, especially when you're running a Bloodwrack Medusa. But you gotta take a Bloodwrack Medusa when you're taking a Morathi lore build. So tried to keep it fairly magic strong, you know, between the Bloodwrack and their shooting attacks, and then the Silentius Harvesters as kind of a backup wizard, and then Morathi herself, and then make sure to fill out the army with what you can while avoiding the units that are really, really famous for sticking with other characters. So, you know, you want your Blackguard of Naggarond with the likes of Malekith, while you want the Harkonneth Executioners with good old Hellebrand, and you want most of the Cold One Knights with Malice. And if you're trying to kind of like divvy them up to try and tell a cool story or have those lore accurate builds. But thanks to Silver Bagel for the game, and we'll see you guys for the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.